morning. How's everybody doing? Get the headphones on. Right, can you hear me? Okay, yep, we're all good there. Alright, how's it going? You hear me? That's smash. Amazing. Whoa, what a day I had yesterday. I was so busy. And fixing my trem, come on. Like, what was going on there? Right, there we go. I can hear myself. Yeah, so, like, what happens is it's alright pulling back on. I've had this happen on the red guitar as well. If I'm too aggressive on the dive bombs, there's like this little click that happens. It's like a clunk. And then the whole guitar goes completely out of tune. And I think what happens is the way the trem goes into the posts, it dislodges itself and then relodges itself, but not in the totally the correct place. And it's really weird because when you look at it, it looks about right, but it's not. So you have to slacken the strings off and then push it back, and then it reattaches itself. It's stressful. But then it works, and then you just tune it, and it's fine. So I was playing it yesterday, and seemed all good. All right, audio eyeballs, how are you doing? So it's just something you've got to. I mean, is it something to do with my big heavy hand? Thomas has never had that problem. It's happened to me twice, so on two different guitars. Right, you've had the same problem in the past, audio eyeballs. That's really interesting. It's really weird when I cough. My mic's got reverb on it. How can that be? Very strange in here sometimes. Yeah. Well, it's a relatively new guitar, isn't it? It's like, I've been hammering away on that black one for about a year-ish. Yeah, that's it. It slips out and then throws the guitar out. But it seemed, yeah. I mean, it's stressful, but like easily fixed. The first time it happened on a live as well. On the orange guitar a number of years ago, and I remember that actually became the subject of the stream for a bit. Thomas was like zooming in on my guitar. What's wrong with this? It looks how it should, but it doesn't work. And then basically after the stream, because it was when we were remotely streaming, I had to go there, and he looked at it, and then he just did that fix, and it worked again. First time it happened, I was like, oh no, who fixes this? I suppose the guitar tech would fix it, wouldn't he? Crank this light up a bit. Love the way Ecamm does like lots of different like sizes for these. It does have a slight worn spot on the posts, right? Ideally. Yeah. Well, apart from that, it's all good. So then I was just starting to think about the streams and what to do and how to add value, because it's the free resource for everybody. And so things that are going to be happening. So next week, I'm thinking about moving the lesson to a Tuesday. Maybe it's not the Tuesday. Might be a better day. Could be a Monday, but probably a Tuesday. And next week we will be doing, I probably mentioned it yesterday, we're going to be doing adding chromatics to your playing, which I think is an important thing for a number of reasons. A, it makes you sound dead clever. Unless you're me. It makes you sound more intelligent than you're playing, like you're a rock player, and he's been listening to some fusion. He's not like the others. So if you're wanting that vibe, then we can, chromaticism. That's going to be next week, and I'm looking forward to that because adding chromatics has been a fairly important thing that I've been getting into sort of the last sort of however many months. Just simply you get when I do a lot of playing, I get very bored of what I'm doing. I don't know if anybody gets that. But I've been a couple of things that have been really interesting since really getting into a lot of playing, and I have been doing a ton of playing. Like this is like over the last maybe 6 months, where I've really been doubling down on it. That you do get bored. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I have no idea where that is coming from. What is it? Okay. 1, 2. That's doing it. 1, 2. Let's have a look at the returns. 1. Something coming through on the hall. How can it be getting to the hall? 1. 1. That is so weird. Weird. 1. That's coming through on the delay as well. I don't know. I'll just go with it for now. I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'll figure it out. Yeah, it's like the weird quirks of live streaming. Yeah, for fun, play different styles of music. So I do a ton of that every day. So when I'm not here, I'm playing in a variety of different styles. And yes, Gramps, you're right. So in fact, the majority of my practice is on jam tracks. Is on jam tracks. Playing different styles, or over different styles anyway. In my style. But in terms of like a good project to sink your teeth into, then yeah, bossa nova. Yeah, so it just gets a bit weird because sometimes when I'm doing the lives with Thomas, he's using backing tracks that I'll. Or maybe it's because I've got my guitar not plugged in. He's using backing tracks that that I'll use at work. Oh, that's loud. That's loud. So yeah, it'll be interesting to find out why that reverb's coming in on my voice, because I have no idea what's causing it. Yeah. So what was I saying? Upgrading your style. So that's always been a thing. So the chromatic thing is just you know, part of that. There's been a number of things. So yeah, playing style, playing over backing tracks. But then when it comes to sort of adapting your technique and opening up, you know, new ideas on your guitar, and I think this will be another guitar lesson, is you know, there's been a number of things that I've done. I mean, we know about the economy picking, we know about hybrid picking, but then just recently, it's you know, I love arpeggios, and I think arpeggios are a great way to sort of improvise and come up with a different framework. And I think that's more like what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the chromaticism, is having a different frame to use to then improvise with, which is a bit different than just like improvising over a different genre of music. Uh, so, and I find it a really good way to sort of maintain my style, but slightly open it out, if you know what I mean. So you know, things like I've done in the past as a update, things that I'm spending my time on are, you know, I started off with the 2-1-2 pentatonic shapes, didn't I? So in other words, you know, I just used, instead of doing, say, like this sort of thing, doing that, we're doing like a pentatonic kind of shape. Hi Zed, how you doing? So that was like one thing, and then we've got things where other 2-1-2 shapes. Like the Tim Miller stuff's absolutely amazing, and I hope everybody who comes on here has had a go at these, because you're just going to end up with arpeggios, you know, all over the place. I mean, to be fair, apart from like when I first started playing, it's like the one time where I've actually had like guitar overwhelm in a really good way, where I'm like, oh god, there's so much stuff to learn, it's amazing. Was, you know, from that. Alright, Perplexity, you just woke up. Joining. Oh, look at that, you see. So, Gramps is saying, create a shred opera with the missus. Maybe not. I think one song here and there is all right. To be fair, she's very busy, because she does have, you know, the first like legacy release from Freakstar comes out in January, and there's a bit of a promotion behind it, right? There's a bit of a promotion behind it, and I'm hoping it's going to do, you know, for an indie band, it'll do all right. But literally after that, there are another 30 tracks to release. 32 tracks to release, so there's a lot. And it'll be interesting to see if they all get released. I mean, they're all on SoundCloud, but properly released. So I know we're doing. I've been doing. In fact, I think I did part of it on a live stream. I've done a sort of remix, alternative version of Rebel at What I See, and I know she's keen on vocaling that. But if you want to rock up, just listen to all the Freakstar stuff back to back without stopping, Gramps. And imagine we're acting each song out. Imagine it as a play. So yeah, Perplexity's just woke up to join the stream. Lovely. What a great way to wake up, eh? Coming on here, listening to me going on. Brilliant. Yeah. You like Rick Graham? He's got crazy hybrid stuff. Believe it or not, I'll tell you a little story because you know, music, you know, education, it's lifelong learning and you never stop learning. And I am totally, and you'll hear me saying it all the time on here, you know, don't waste your time. Join one of my coaching groups or like have a one-to-one coaching session or have a guitar lesson. If there's something specific that you're wondering about, wanting to do or worried about, then you know you can come here and then you can book in for a session and you can at least have somebody to talk about it to work through the problems. You know, especially in this day and age, because I find musicians are more and more isolation. So when I did economy picking, you know, I went off and started on my own. I got some success out of it, but there was areas I just wasn't sure about, and I couldn't find the answers, and I couldn't 100% work it out myself where I was totally sure of whether I was going in the right direction. It was a very critical moment because if I hadn't have done that, I might have invested time into a technique that wasn't going to serve me very well, especially later down into in the future. And also was just a load of time into an experiment which I didn't need to do. So I actually booked Graham in for several lessons, really. So all of the stuff that I wanted, and it was more to do with having confirmation on what I was doing. I mean, I wasn't doing anything majorly wrong, but it was just the fact that I could talk to him and I could share what I was experiencing, and he could share what he'd experienced in doing what I'm trying to do, and that was incredibly helpful. And it was it was like every lesson with him has been worth like every penny, you know. So that was really good. That just put me on the straight and narrow. I should be promoting me though, but I can't help it. I mean, he was absolutely fabulous, you know, for what I wanted to do. All right, what's Grumps saying? Oh look, I'm flying back home in a few hours, so this is perfect. Where are you, Stelly? You've been going for it. I want to know where you've been going for your adventure. Your playing is great, everything now, and then as you do a transition to the fretboard, there's moments where you're at another higher level while you're playing. That's brilliant, yes. This coffee makes me thirsty. Like, maybe you could get one. I mean, it's not a great way to quench thirst, though, is it, Stelly? Maybe some water might be good. Good morning, Hutch. I'm listening to the stream during my workout. Well, that's good. Keep going there, Chris. Do a few extra reps. I used to fantasize about a shred opera. Okay. Sounds good. I've never been a fan of opera. Yo, yo. He's brilliant. What a guy. Yeah, Rick. He's, I'm also fabulous. Thank you. You could book you could book a lesson with me because the pain of learning these techniques is still very fresh in my mind. So I'm a good one. I'm a good place to start. I went to a trade fair. How exciting! What trade fair? I wonder if it was a music one or whether it was something more corporate. So what was I saying? So I get sidetracked. So that was a really like interesting thing about the technique. So yeah, just like for anything, for music production, you know, if you're wondering about certain things, then just go to an expert and ask. That's the best thing. Do you offer private one-on-ones? Yes, I do. So you can email me. So you can book private, and you can have a guitar lesson, and you can you can have a one-to-one coaching session. It's all good. So, primarily when I start, teaching was where the I'm not saying I'm a teacher, but teaching was the starting point, because you just end up teaching, don't you, when you play an instrument. So I had that for years and years. I trained as a teacher as well, believe it or not. But then, like, the coaching thing came, and that just, as you know, blew my mind. I was just like, whoa. I mean, 2014 to 2015, I was reborn. I was like, incredible. Without that coaching, I wouldn't be sitting here doing this. I might ask you for a private lesson, as I have some questions you can help me with. Brilliant, Stelly. And you can book in and you can have those questions answered. Do I have kids? Yes. I do. I have a teenage daughter. She's 17. And she's musical. She's qualified chorister. She doesn't do that anymore, though. She plays violin, grade. She's doing a grade 8. And piano, grade 4. That's okay, Stelly. It's an hour session. So when you get an hour free, I'm sure I'll be able to fit you in. I have twins. Wow, 17 as well. No musical bones in their body. I think. Bone. So I think it's an interesting one. I'm not. When I think back to music, when I wanted to do music because I wanted to be a rock star, it was like watching Kiss and Van Halen and things like that, thinking, and Ozzy and Jakey Lee, just thinking that's amazing. I want to do that. I wasn't necessarily just thinking. I wasn't thinking about the music, but that kind of got me in the room to do music. And then parents being parents go, yeah, you can have a guitar lesson. And then I ended up with a classical guitar teacher. I was like, no, this isn't quite what it is. And then they were like, no, it isn't, but this is discipline. You do this first, and then we'll get you electric guitar when you get your, can't remember what it was, grade. I had to get a grade. I had a one-on-one with Hutch the other day. He's a good listener and plays your brain so you figure out a positive direction. Brilliant. So yeah, and I think everything else from then with me was just practice, And I think being good on an instrument really just comes down to, how often you practice. In other words, regular practice. And then how you practice, and the how you practice is the important bit. Are you going into sessions when you practice with a particular aim, objectives that you're trying to fulfill, or are you just kind of noodling? So that's the big difference, and that's there's that book that I go on, Peak, which talks extensively about this, and I highly recommend everybody read that. I mean, if you haven't got Audible's like an amazing thing. You can just get these books and like listen to them in the car while you're driving to work, and just be, amazed, and get all this information into your head. But yeah, Peak talks about purposeful and deliberate practice. So if we're picking the guitar up and you're just playing, and you're noodling. There's no direction. That's just purposeful practice. You're not particularly working on something. Whereas deliberate practice, you'll have a particular lick, and there might be when you look at you playing it along the timeline on XY axis, there'll be one point where it goes wrong, and then it's about analyzing that and then structuring exercises to overcome that problem. So that would be more your deliberate practice, and that's the practice that is gonna, it's, for a start, it's measurable. Purposeful practice there's no, how would you measure it? And how can you measure like what your actions are doing in terms of how you're progressing? So you need to kind of think about that, really. Gramps is talking about the addiction concept. Yeah, so this has come up before when. So the guy who coached me actually had this mastery group, and actually, it was it became really, really popular, and I was actually going to be on it just to be coached, but it ended up he's like, oh, there's too many people here. You're gonna have to coach as well, Tim. So I was chucked in the deep end on this coaching program, which I'd never coached on, and that was really interesting. And the first initial throw of that was about addiction, and sort of ignoring result focus, ignoring expectation, right, and not worrying about end results, okay, or cohesion as a way of motivation, but actually thinking about, well, what in the process can I do that's that makes me addicted to it, that draws my interest, that wants me to come back to that thing. So initially it's finding that thing that you want to do. And I really do experience this now. There's just certain things. It's like I was talking about the other day, because I'm really keen on hybrid picking and doing the chromaticism and doing weird fingering stuff, right? Because I'm doing all that kind of stuff, it's not necessarily all picked. But then what happens is I kind of lose the picking a little bit, and I have to come back and do that. And that sometimes means, can mean doing boring exercises. And I think I'll pick on exercises because for some reason I'll think that, okay, that doing that exercise will be a quick way to get me there. In some ways it is, but it takes a lot of motivation to actually get there, to sit and play something that I would typically do to get that back, who's like, I don't want to do that for too long, but I want the results. That's when we become result focused, and that becomes a problem. And there's also no addiction there. It's just the necessity. And when I'm playing that, I'm thinking about all the other wonderful things I could play. So it's a tricky one. So my suggestion would be to not worry about it and to just go with whatever your addiction is within your musical interest. So as I say, for me, I've been obsessed with these weird sort of odd fingerings, I'll give you an example. I mean, this is the one I hate doing, right? I'll just do it in F sharp minor and give myself a chance. And you'll see Tom Quayle doing this, because I really like watching the way he moves about the fretboard. So what he does is this is kind of his thing. It's he's harmonized the pentatonic scale in sort of fourths and seconds, so kind of gives you that fusion feel, doesn't it? Especially the fourths, because there's quartal harmony involved in it. So if we're talking about, I'll do the easy position first. I mean, if we're talking about F sharp minor pentatonic, this would be one of the positions. So that's it's like a minor third there. And then you've got this bit, major second, fourth. So you've got those interesting jumps in it. But then when you harmonise it, you end up in all kinds of situations. So here's another one. Who likes that? Stretch. But here's the thing, you know, I know it sounds amazing, and I know that if I do that stretch and I work on it, and you know, and you can loosen your hands up to get there, because I'm managing it there. That, you know, there'll be a lot of benefits. There's a lot of things I can do with this particular set of arpeggios in improvisation, just to, you know, make things more interesting, you know. So at the minute, I'm quite addicted to that, even though it's very challenging. Now, there's not much difference physically from doing that than there is from doing except for the one thing that this, for now, practicing that, has much more interesting possibilities that I know that I can use. And I mean, that's the only future sort of result focus that I'm looking at, is that I know I can use it in an improvisation and it sounds cool and it's kind of moving me in the direction that I want to be moved in, you know. And that's part of the addiction thing as well, is actually knowing, as I keep saying, what you're wanting to do next. So this has actually ended up, I didn't have any plan for this morning live, but actually this is quite a good sort of discussion, the addiction thing. So I think what I'm saying in short is, if there's something on guitar that you're really addicted to doing, don't put it off for the sake of an exercise. Don't go, oh, I'd really like to do that addiction thing, but I can't do that till I do all these other things that I think I'm supposed to be doing. That's just not true. Go with the thing that's an addiction. And I do watch a lot of. I tell you what, I really like doing is I do watch a lot of interviews of different at the minute guitarists, you know, and this constellation of addiction. Now I'm aware of it because people keep mentioning it. Is very much a thing, and again, Tom Quayle was talking about this. He was like, when I've ever had the biggest gains in his playing, he was talking about the fact it was because he was obsessed with something, or in other words, that addiction was there, and it was a concept, and he wanted to crack it. He wanted to slay that dragon, and get whatever that concept was. I think he was talking about harmony and music theory. You know, he really found that interesting, so he pursued it. You know. That connected with me. You know, and when we talk about Alan Holdsworth, I mean, I'll never play like Alan Holdsworth, because Alan Holdsworth is so, from the ground up, as an artist, uh, it's so built around his idea of what music is, that's so different from other things. And it's like, you know, that whole thing of what he's done is completely addiction. You know, he's come up with an idea of a style of how he wants to sound, and he's not got sidetracked into other things, other genres. It's like he's been completely focused on that, and you never hear him play any other genre. All right, I've only ever heard Alan Holdsworth being Alan Holdsworth, and then his playing's made up of his, you know, what his musical interests were. One of them being Olivier Messiaen, the composer, and the Messiaen scale. So the Messiaen modes, and the idea of you know, improvisation, playing all of the notes and giving them all an equal importance. In fact, that's what the Messiaen modes are, aren't they? The scales of equal importance. And I find that very, very, you know, very, very interesting, because that was also a counterbalance to what I was doing when I was learning chromaticism. You see, when you're playing chromatically, you know, the way I do it, which is like the way everybody else does it, the notes aren't equally important, are they? You're using what they call passing notes, and a passing note isn't as equally important as the note that you're landing on, because you don't land on it. If you land on it, you're going to be horrendously out of tune, and that's just something you can do, you know, to fit over music that's fairly, you know, in key with itself, let's say. But the Alan Holdsworth thing, the equal in importance, that's fascinating, and then, you know, that's been the style that he's pursued. And every day he's woken up and it's been very much dedicated to a sound that he has in his head, I would imagine. So, like, Alan Holtz is probably the player, right, where I don't really understand anything that's going on, but absolutely love listening to it. So, that connected me. I imagine a lot of people spend too much time thinking about nonsense, slowly converting that time into music by having your instrument at the ready. Yeah, just, the addiction, yeah. And the addiction thing is, you don't want any friction to your addiction, do you? It rhymes, doesn't it? So, what we're talking about is having your guitar there, not having your guitar in a case, having your guitar, in the bedroom, having a guitar in your living room, having a guitar. I mean, I'm actually banned from having guitars anywhere in the house except in here, so I don't go anywhere in the house. So I'm just always in here. Have you tried to play in fourths like Tom does? Seems to make shapes on the fretboard easier. Yeah, so there are two modes here. So I have obviously barring fourths. So you'll see this sort of thing. Sorry, I'm not warmed up here. So it'll be that kind of thing that I love doing. On pentatonic scales. And then the Tom Quayle thing. That's the thing that I've been really focusing on, and that's bringing your finger over. This will be a really hard position. So yeah, that kind of thing. And then the other thing where you'll experience it big style is Tim Miller stuff. So that's like just the fifth position pentatonic thing. But you've got to get used to kind of folding those fingers in. So it's just like two sort of positions to think about and how you do stuff. So, so a good sort of question that really, audio to the eyeballs. The fourth thing. I mean, what actually started that whole thing with me was I wanted to be able to do this. And I wasn't getting the consistent sound I wanted where if I did it with bars, it wasn't quite the same. So to get more clarity, I needed like all the notes to be separate and no barring. And that's how I did it, It's a good sounding note. Nice sort of lick there. Well, he plays fourths tuning. Oh, right, I see what you mean. It's weird to me to have B, C, and D in it. Yeah. So we can talk about fourths tuning because I had, as I was getting really bored with myself, I thought, why don't I have a day where I tune my guitar to fourths? So I did do that, and like, why you get obviously really good symmetry on the guitar, and it really standardizes finger positions, as you're saying. But on your day to day, if you want to play chords with open notes, if you want to play full bar chords, if you play like songs or anything that's like, traditional guitar, forget it. Like, it's not happening. 2 seconds. Yeah, so that that's not going to happen. And then also, if you're teaching other people, or if I'm showing people on this stream, I've got to go, well, I'm tuned to fourth, so you're going to have to transpose it, and then that's just another layer of hassle, isn't it? That's like, oh God, like, really? So I tried it, and although I thought, oh, this would be good, if I didn't have to like, if I didn't have to engage with anybody in an educational manner ever again, then actually tuning fourths might be good. So maybe when I'm really old in my 70s and I'm just unsociable and hate everybody, I might tune my guitar to fourths then. I'm sure that won't happen though. But yeah. But really practical doing the fourths thing. And then there's just not that many players who do it, isn't it? I couldn't imagine like teaching anyway, and then going, but then reteaching people, because you're tuned in for it's too much, isn't it? I mean, it's already complicated. So yeah, so what we're talking about, addiction. Yeah, a good one. So in short, don't worry about the mechanical exercises, right? Just chase the things that you're addicted to, and the rest will sort itself out, because that's the driving force. That's the fuel in the tank, isn't it? Propelling you. I mean, exercises are important, but you want to be. I mean, addiction's such an amazing thing in music, isn't it? Because there'll be times, and I'm sure we've all experienced this, where I'll be like, "Oh, I've got absolutely no time whatsoever," and when I've been coached, I've said that I've got no time, and he's like, "Oh, you need to find time to do stuff," and I'm like, "I've got no time," and then there's been no time, and then I've done something, right, and I've really enjoyed doing it, and then suddenly, because like I'm addicted to it, I'm aware of all of this time, I'm able to do it. It's the same with guitar. It's when I'm when there's not much going on and I haven't got that addiction there because there's no interest in any particular subject that I'm, then when I am interested, time just absolutely just comes flying out of nowhere. It's amazing, the addiction thing. And if you compound that with your already well established music routine, what I call a minimum viable commitment, which is, the first thing I was talking about this the other day actually at work. Like one of the first things that you need to establish, right? If your life is a musical kind of chaos, right, and it's just going to work and like, oh, I don't have any time and I really want to do this and I used to be able to do it and all that kind of stuff, and then you get like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, then you might have a quiet half an hour, but none of it adds up, and then there'll be days where you don't do anything. Then having a minimum viable commitment is so important, and then placing that at a time of the day when you do it after something that you do every day. Like for me, get up in the morning. I know that this time is sacred. I get up in the morning, but I get up earlier, so I'm expected to get up and expected to do other things that you have to do just to run a house and a family. Then for me, I just get up an hour and a half earlier and I do these streams, and this stream, this is my minimum viable commitment, really. And like the streaming thing is really good because it does a number of things actually. It's accountability to a group, which is probably not. I mean, I'm not recommending everybody to doing this. This is probably a bit extreme, but I love streaming because it's allowed me to practice. It's allowed me to overcome fear. It's allowed me to hone in on performance. And I've wrote tons of music on streams as well. So, and also you connect. I'm also making my connection to the world. So like the stream thing covers pretty much all areas of what I need to do. But because I've got the addiction thing and the accountability and the habit, it's a it's very, very, very robust. But for people who haven't got all those other things yet, and there's one thing, then you got to form a habit. But the one thing with habits you got to be aware of is habits are quite brittle. So when you break a habit, you can get quite demotivated, and then it takes a little bit of effort to get in. But you can reinforce habits with something that's like an accountability thing, and how you do that, that's up to you. So maybe you do an audit at the end of the month to see where you're at and punish yourself if you haven't done it. No. Or maybe you're gearing up towards a performance or some sort of goal. But if you layer accountability with habit, it really becomes very, very strong, And I suppose as musicians, one thing that will help you get clarity is, just thinking about your music and how you're going to use it to connect with the world. Now, I understand that people don't want to connect with the world and they don't necessarily want to perform, but it could be something very, very simple, like just doing it for your own sanity is like one, isn't it? Because that's helping you connect to the world in other areas. And to be fair, that's a lot of my work is specialising in that, isn't it? It's the therapeutic aspect, of music. So music can help you have the confidence, reduce anxiety, and generally just keep you well. It's in other words, it's a protective factor that you use that helps you engage in other things. So that there is that aspect, so that you still engage. What I would like to say is you're still engaging with the world, and you're using music to do that. So it's just as important as, say, how I use music, which is music is my main voice. The tool that I use to engage with the outside, if that makes sense, So do think about that, just because if there's anybody out there going, demotivated, what's the point? I'm not going to be doing performances or whatever. Don't like that. It's just as important that you do music because you love doing music and you get something from that, and it regulates your mood and helps you in that way. So that's very important. I can't stress that enough, But I'm losing my track here. So yeah, so just gearing everything up so it supports that connection with the world. So always think about that as well. And usually what I find is the addictions are more kind of round that, as opposed to like a mechanical technical exercise. Because when you're doing an exercise, it's down the ladder of skills, isn't it? And has nothing to do really about you, what you're trying to say to the world. It's just something that you're doing to make you more proficient, potentially. But I think there are other ways to do it. So the other thing I was talking about, like next week's lesson will be on chromaticism, either happening on Monday, more likely to be a Tuesday. I think I'm wondering if, like, sometimes I'm a bit too chaotic on a Monday. So like it just gives me a little bit of time to think, doesn't it? But then other times I get really excited about the lesson and I want to do it on the Monday. So we'll just have to see. But it'll be advertised, and I'll make sure I advertise it ahead of time. And then the other thing to look forward to is Christmas will be coming up, right? So there'll be the usual streams that I do, and then it'll probably fall off at some point, and that'll become like sort of a few evenings and stuff when I'm on holiday. But in January, I don't know what you think about this. Last year, I did sort of a music lecture um, every day during the working week, apart from the days when I was coaching. So I did 4 lectures a week thereabouts on average, on various subjects, and actually addictions will be one. So we'll have another look at this. So I will be doing talks, and the first series of those talks, I think it's a great time in January, isn't it? After the holiday period, it's probably quite motivating for people. And I'll make sure they're all labelled, but I'll be covering all of and I'll put them in a playlist this time, and then it's like the Bible, isn't it? And I'll try and do an even better job this year than I did last year, because last year it was just like, I just had this idea and I thought, oh, I'll just not really plan any of it and then just get on there and start talking, But I'm going to try and, because I've done it last year, there'll be stuff that I missed out that I want to add in this year, so hopefully it'll be even better. But I'll be a bit more organised, so we'll be looking at, firstly, conditions of success. So you've all heard me talk about that. Conditions of success are, what we've been talking about today, actually, forming habits, organising your environment, making decisions, dealing with boredom. That's the chromaticism's part, that dealing with boredom, isn't it? Fear, getting over fear, skills, and community, and focus. So that's what we'll be doing. So there's like 8 of the lectures. We'll be looking at modularizing creativity. So I'll be specifically looking at, there'll be an overview, and then I'll be specifically looking at, what does it mean to splurge? What does it mean to do discovery sessions? What does it mean to be doing a drafting session? What does it mean to put something in done? How do we evaluate a piece of music outside of our own preference? So how do we know a piece of music? Because the problem with artists is, I'm not releasing that because I don't like it. It doesn't represent me. But everybody else in the world will probably like it, right? It's not down to you to not release it because you don't like it, or it's not necessarily the direction. I mean, I understand those things. So there is a way in which you can, and this is the thing, it's like feedback, isn't it? And people say like, oh, do you give me some feedback on your music? And it's honestly, I tell you what, so doing playlisting. So I've been watching, the singer doing the playlisting, and she's like, oh, there's feedback here. You might find it really interesting. It could be important, right? I'm like, really? Okay, from the playlisters. So you just get like loads of just nonsense, like, oh, yeah, really liked it, but for me, right? Not the world. For me, wouldn't put it out there. And then you get things like, drums are really groovy, like the bass line, and the vocals are on point, but it wouldn't be a good fit. So you get absolutely no useful data whatsoever. And the most useful data was a guy who went, and the most laughable one was, yeah, the song's great, but for me, for our playlist, it's not clean enough. So it's the most blunt feedback that I've ever heard. I mean, I wouldn't even bother putting, I would just go, look, I've heard it and it's not going to be a good fit, right? But when you start offering stuff like that, like the mix isn't clean, well, which bit isn't clean? That's what I want to know. Is it all dirty? Like every single thing, the guitars are meant to be dirty. That's how I want it. Want dirty. That singer's dirty. I mean, the singing is dirty, right? Which bit is it? Have we got to clean up here? Is it the lyrics? Is it the music? Is it the dirtiness of the low end of the snare clashing with a bass? You see, that would be useful. So maybe there's something there, but they don't think like on the XY axis. So it's like this is why I don't do feedback, because it's just, there's too many other variables that other people have that are absolutely effing useless, right, to what you're trying to achieve. So the only way to give yourself feedback, do you honestly think, right, for a second, Alan Holdsworth would have sent his music to a playlister, right, for 1 second, and then for me, it's a little bit out of tune. You know what? Like, oh right, I better not play all the out of tune notes and just leave the ones that are in tune because I won't be successful if I do that. I mean, it's that utter nonsense, isn't it? So you just ignore it all. It's all bullshit. It's all crap, and it's only a source of my amusement. Honestly, and that goes to all the playlisters, and I don't care if you like hate me and want to like ban me from every playlist. I'm happy. Um, but seriously, it's so don't unless it's somebody, unless it's trusted feedback, right? What? How did I get onto this? Like, unless it's somebody you really trust, okay, then just ignore anybody's feedback. But if you're going to do that, you need to have your own system of feedback, and there's this thing called paths where basically you're relating all aspects of your music to what the purpose, what the intention is meant to be, and all actions serve that. But because of that model, what you can do is you can rate various elements of your composition to that. So I'm trying not to give away, but basically what I'm saying is paths is an anagram of purpose, purpose, arc, thing, hook, space, right? So you can go, right, well, does the arc, does the structure serve the purpose, the meaning, the story? Does the thing, say the thing's like the bit that releases the most tension in the music, does the chorus part release the most tension, or doesn't it? If it doesn't, does it, then maybe you need a thing section where maybe after the chorus you release the tension there. There's a number of actually McRocklin Hutch tracks where I do that. Waiting for the Right Time does that. It's got that synth riff, ding, 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 ding. But it pretty much all builds tension, doesn't it? To that point. Anyway, hooks, is your track hooky enough, and do the hooks reflect the purpose? Do they serve the purpose? And does the space, instead of sitting somebody in front of your computer that sound like and writing a piece of music that sounds like you're in front of somebody's computer, are you putting them in an imaginary space? And there's numbers of interesting ways you can do that. Obviously, you can use reverb and delays, but you could actually use a physical space. You could use Foley, couldn't you? You could use the sound of if you're doing vaporwave, well, why not put the sound of an empty shopping mall, broken escalator on there? Maybe used in a musical way, like where the escalator is. I'm getting on board with the escalator idea again, where it's adding percussion. So there are ways to and I do this when I'm coaching. So when you're in a coaching group, this is the thing that you learn very much in depth, right? So just skirting along there, you only get to see about this much under the surface here. So it's not a deliberate thing. It's just like it would take too long, and then people would switch off, and then I'd end up coaching about two people because not everybody want to do this, but it's interesting to hear. And I think when I talk like this, it can provide some inspiration for other people and give you some ideas to think about yourself and how you would use them in your situation now, which is more important. Like what you do with something is far more interesting than somebody telling you how you should do something, So just putting these ideas and oh God, is it methods? I'll have to check on that. But anyway, so that's a much better way of self-evaluating your music and then rating yourself on like a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 on how well these areas actually serve the purpose as the central focus. So that would be a much better way. But I don't expect playlisters to do that. But I just expect them to just say it's not a good fit. Okay, don't go. If you're going to say the mix is not clean enough, then at least say why, what you think is where the problem is. And again, that's still an opinion. But I know how A&R people listen to music because I was told. Like in dance music, when you send something off, right? This is how they do it. They go to the breakdown, they listen to the bit of the breakdown, like the first bit. They'll skip to the bit where it lifts into the drop, and they'll listen to that, and then they'll let it go into the drop. And then if that bit works, they'll sign it. Like, because they get that much stuff played, they can't listen to it unless it's extra special and they just totally love the track, then they'll listen to it. But quickly getting stuff signed, that's what they do, you know. It's interesting, isn't it? And then when they're convinced that they sign it and you sign the contract, then they listen to it properly just to make sure there's nothing too weird in it. All right, let's have a look at the. Oh, good. That makes so much sense. Josh says, excellent. Haha. So yes, modularizing creativity. That's something to look forward to in the new year. So if anybody asks you, you know, what are your plans? I'm going to be listening to Hutch for leisure, talking about conditions of success and modularizing creativity. So there's says about 10, 12 episodes. That's half of the month gone, isn't it? I will be talking a bit about AI, and I'll try not to sound like, Terminator, like you don't understand the world's coming to an end. The music, well, I'll try not to do that. But there are certain things we need to be thinking about in order to survive, like for our careers. Okay, so that's just my opinion on it, based on the other coaches that I get trained with, and what we've found through our experiences with coaching people. So that's always an interesting one, the AI thing, and so that's more from a creative thing. Yeah, like the reason I'm streaming every day, right? Not every day, but stream as much. It's because I understand that actually the human connection is like the most important thing, you know? I mean, releasing music's great, but if I had to put a hierarchy in what I'm doing at the minute, really, for now, at the point of what I'm thinking, the most brutalist, quickest way to get that instant hit, to get the music injected into your bloodstream straight away, and for me to get there is like literally from naught to like a split second, is to just do live looping. That's the conclusion at the minute. So everything that I've learned, all the production kind of stuff that I'm doing, I'm thinking, well, and I need to update my template as well, that reminds me. How do I get it all into a thing where I can just instantly do it? And that's what I'm working on, and that again is an addiction. It gets me excited, it gets me fired up, and at some point I'll go back to writing music, and then you'll see me here, and then the stream will look like me looking at, you'll be looking at me and going, what's he doing? Looks like he's writing an email, and this is boring. I think what I'll do is I'll just put Hutch in the background, and then when he speaks I'll switch it on or whatever, or then I'll pay some attention. It might be that. Not saying that everybody does that. No, they're probably glued to the box, listening to everything I do, even the gaps of silence, in anticipation of what's going to happen next. But I think like the human connection and talking about things is like, in my haphazard way, is really, really important. So there'll be something about AI. What other things we'll be doing? Oh, there'll be the famous free write. You're going to have that in the new year. So there will be, after we've done conditions of success, we'll be chilling out for a session doing a free write. And that's about, and I'll talk about this, music will be an episode, money, and mindset. So those are the three things that we're doing. Or you might think of it like sex, money, and power. Should I call it that? So rather than calling it sex, money, and power, we've got music, business, and mindset. And we'll do a free write on those three sections. Yeah. It's going to be music, money, and mindset. It's not going to be music, money, and sex or sex, money, and power. It's not going to be that. That's my new album. That's the McRocklin Hutch third album, isn't it? Sex, money, power. Let's go. Yeah. And then so there'll be the free ride where I will expect everybody to engage. And then there's a couple of other ones that I've forgotten about. That'll be really important. We'll do an addictions episode. There'll be something about guitar playing. And I might have some sort of music production thing in there, but I'll have a look at I'll formulate my list, and I'll post that up in advance of what it'll be, well in advance, so everybody will know with some sort of schedule. But I would expect everybody to attend every single session because you need all of that information together. It's how I think the modern musician needs to be thinking. Okay, I mean, in short, I think there is too much focus on the skills and not enough focus on all the other skill set that you need that supports the skills. I think we're all there, you know. I think we're all happy to buy guitars and products and things like that and then sit there. But I'm not so sure, right, that everybody I meet's got really good habits, that's 100% got their environment set up. Or then I know some people who just like set up their environment and do nothing else. I got, you know, people who are then really bored or just don't know what to do next, or people who are just absolutely terrified now because they've built themselves up. They've got all this gear, and now I'm going to have to do something. So much expectation on myself, and then you got the fear thing, and then people who just don't know what to do next or get really confused in the conversational phase. So that's the decision making. So yeah, we'll be talking about all these things. Right. Just James. Okay. What kind of laptop do you recommend for music production? Well, it depends what you're going to be doing, right? So for me, when I haven't been streaming, just like the MacBook Pro, so whatever the standard MacBook Pro has always served me really, really well. As I was moving towards more the streaming thing, and I'd always get the 16-inch. But I have had 14-inch ones before for work because they're easier and more ergonomic, and they've been absolutely fine. But if you're going to do some, like, you know, heavy recording and streaming and video editing and stuff like that, I mean, I've got this one here. This is an M1 with 16 gigs, and I can run Ableton with tons of plugins at a pretty fast latency and stream at the same time on it, so that's pretty good. But obviously they don't do the M1 now. It's the M4, so I would conclude that the bog standard M4 would be, you know, amazing. If you can go up a bit, M4 Pro, like 16-inch, really good. Because I'm doing video editing and all the other things, I'm getting the M4 Pro Max, and also it's got Max, and I think it would also synchronize with my ego a lot better than just the Pro. No, I'm only joking. So that's what I would suggest, a laptop. However, Stelia's got some great suggestions because the laptops are very sort of expensive and what have you like that. So obviously Mac Minis are really good value. You just need your monitor. If you're not going the laptop route, but you are going the laptop route, so I recommend Mac. How about that? Thing is with gear, it's always just best to get the best that you can get, because it's all about time. You don't want to be faffing on and doing stuff or worrying about things not working or doing workarounds and all of that tiring stuff. Like, it's just absolute rubbish. I've been through doing that for a good chunk of my career, especially when it was all MIDI, right? When you couldn't have everything in the box, right? When I started, I'd have bits of really shit gear and it would just like suck my life into it, you know, for nothing. But there was no choice. But then when I started, right, hold on a minute, I'm just going to get stuff that's amazing, right? And works really well. Then actually my life became a lot better and I was a happier musician. So there you go, Jess. Oh, and I forgot. So, I should have said this at the beginning. Uh, I need more subscribers and I need more watch time on this channel. Not that I'm gonna like hit everybody with a paywall and put all the good stuff behind a pro members thing or whatever. But it would be nice so I can get like donations and stuff like that on here would be good. I just want to see if it happens. So that means I need. Well, I'm pretty good for. I'm always wanting subscribers, so I need as many subscribers as possible. So if you like this and you like what I'm talking about, and actually today I was meant to be playing guitar and entertaining people, you know, with music, with the metaphor of emotion, but it's ended up that we're talking more about stuff which is, I think, way more important for today. So when that comes, you have to go with the flow, don't you? So those of you who aren't subscribed to this channel, do subscribe to it. Everybody, give me a thumbs up, a like, because apparently, in fact, it helps the algorithm. I'm going to feed the algorithm. It's like this monster, isn't it, that you need to feed. So if we give it thumbs up, we can keep it happy and it'll be good to me like the gods. Hi everyone there. Just wanted to share that I just dawned me on after years of playing hobbies. Oh god, I'm too slow to read. Hobbies and vital rhythm chords. Rhythm chords are to the song and soloing. Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, understanding rhythm, time. You got to be in time. Timing is more important actually than the notes, because people forgive. People dance to the rhythm, don't they? Fundamentally, so they're less forgiving when it goes wrong and they can't do the moves, right? So timing's really, really important, and chords are very, very important because it's a great way to understand. That's how you understand harmony, isn't it? So, having the chords, understanding intervals. So I have different modes in my head. Like I often I'll think about intervals quite a lot when I'm soloing. And there are certain intervals that I really like the sound that I'll do, which I think are sort of like very sort of to do with my preference. So it's kind of my style. Like I really like the sounds of major sevens and things like that. And I do like the sounds of sort of stuff that sounds ambiguous. So, the fourths and fifths were not necessarily sitting in a strict major or minor thing. It's like this kind of emotionally complex thing where you don't really know necessarily how you're feeling. I'm quite interested in, harmony that evokes that. So that's very much the fifths and fourths and that sort of thing, not so much the other stuff. But yeah, so, and you even have players where certain modes are like attached to their style, aren't they, as well? So when you're thinking on another layer like harmony, it's a great way to start building your own individual uniqueness as well by leaning into one of these colors more than others. Sorry, having a think. Okay, so I don't know. Well, let's have some more questions. So I've talked quite a bit, and I'm wondering, okay, if anybody's got any thoughts. Now, you might be thinking there, and you might have some thoughts, and you might think, oh, I don't really want to share those thoughts because it might seem silly. Nothing's silly. I'm all ears. You know. So don't be shy, and I'm sure that's the majority aren't, because you might have something that you've been thinking about that everybody else has been thinking about and nobody's wanted to say, and then and if it's something ridiculous, I can guarantee I've done it, and I'm happy to say. So, if there's any other questions, do say. But other than that, I'm enjoying my coffee. Oh, 1 second. I'll be back in 1 second. I've just got to organise my park and walk. So have a think about questions. Josh is thinking. That's good. Thinking's good. I love a good think. Could even have a live stream where we just get together and we all think. That's more of a Twitch thing, isn't it? The thinking stream. See, the latest thing with me is because I was talking about it the other day, and this is just typical mechanical thing anyway, because, you know, it's easy to relate to, isn't it? As, so I'm starting to toy more with the idea of a closed hand and having an open hand, because it kind of changes. Oh, right here. Right, forget that. Wasn't that interesting anyway? No. All right, here we go. Brilliant. I'm going to take this to the special place where I look at things and really think about them. Right. Any thoughts on composing chord progressions for songs and solos, or favourite types of chord progressions and types of modes, scales, arpeggios you play over those chords? Yes. Okay. So I think the best way to do this, okay, is to listen to other artists that you really admire and you like, and learn what chords they're using and try and analyse their harmonies. Take those components, right, and reassemble them and construct your own music as a starting point and see what happens. So that's what I would suggest. So one thing is you can splurge. You might just take, you might just take a few chords, right? I don't know. So like Linkin Park are always in the natural minor scale. I don't know why they've come to mind. Probably because I analysed the stuff very early on. And what you might do is you might, take one of their progressions and then do it in lots of different orders. So if you just had like this, one song was this, just E minor 7, C major, D major. Play it in lots of different orders. There are 3 modes we can access from here. So the first one, if we're starting and finishing from E minor, that's the natural minor, isn't it? So you've got the natural minor, but then if we started a progression from C, and then just think another order, so remember we're in E natural minor, that's the Lydian mode. And then what you're thinking about is you think, well, what's the characteristics of that mode? So the characteristics of that mode, it's always in the semitones, and there's only one difference between a Lydian mode and a major scale, and that is the sharpened fourth. So let's have a look. Right. What is going in? So we could have the sharpened fourth, which Okay. So you got kind of a Lydian sound there. And so just taking chord progressions and bringing your thing. I mean, there was a, I was playing it the other day. I can't really say the name, but there was a slowed reverb track my daughter was listening to in the car. And it had these great chords in it, which was, hold on, I'll do it in the key we're in. That was it. So this is, I'll just start another layer here. Right, that was it, sorry. So this is just like a hip-hop trap kind of chords, and I thought, well, that's really good. And you could, again, you could take that progression. And we could make that into something. I mean, interesting, that one was in the mixed Lydian. So the original one was this. But what I'm going to do is, mixed Lydian. Getting a bit jazzy. Something like that, right? So you've got all these different things going on, different modes and emotions, but fundamentally what you're doing is you're listening to other artists, you're studying their chord progressions, the ones that you like, that resonate with you, and then you're taking them, and then you're looking at remodeling them and putting them into your own thing. I mean, I'm using, like here, the first one, if that was a Linkin Park song, you wouldn't know it, would you? Because I'm using totally different effects, everything like that. I'm not using anything to do with the melody. Chords are a fairly standard thing. You're not going to, unless it is the melody of the song, you're not going to get a claim against you. It's the lyrics and melody that are the things that are really, really important. Your production will be totally different. So that's it. So just listen to something again, addiction, like chord progressions that you really, really love. There was a rock band that I was hearing, they were using neo soul chords, so I could instantly hear, right, these are the progressions that they're doing, and then immediately draw my interest to listen to other like neo soul artists, the DNA of where that came from, the genealogy. So it might be that there's a particular genre that's inspired those artists for those chords and those harmony, and you go through that genealogy and you go back and you find out where they got those things from, and then you can understand the process of how they've been pulled forward. I think like one thing, and this is really interesting, making unique music, as we often think, especially younger people do this, is that you have to think into the future and try and invent the future out of nothing. But actually, what does happen is people listen in the past and then bring things from the past into the future. I mean, synthwave is 100% like that. That's like one of the biggest things of doing that. Dance music, electronic music, you can learn a lot from that because that's what they do. There'll be a particular genre, style of music that's happened, and they're pulling ideas from that forward, aren't they? I mean, the dubstep's based on reggae, isn't it? So you can see how those ideas are being pulled forward and mutated into something entirely different, but still has some of that DNA to it. So that's what's interesting. You can learn a lot from listening to dance music and genres of dance music. So I highly recommend listening to something like Beatport and just flicking through different artists and different genres. Because then what you could do is you could listen to a completely different genre and hear elements that you like from that genre and then move them into your things, and that can be the whole chord harmony or whatever you want. So that's a quick suggestion, and I am 1 minute over time for my walk, so I need to go. It's been... Oh, right, hold on. I'll just do this one last comment because it's a big one. Where is it? There are so many chord progressions, yeah, it's not always transfer type music. It's do because I listen to a lot of death metal. So yeah, but you could, you have a think, because the way innovation's made, right, is it's getting opposing ideas and then moving them together. So as I say, neo soul and death metal, why not? But you're going to do it in such a way that it might not be that obvious, but it will provide you with the inspiration. So there are chord extensions. You might think, well, neo soul, they're using like chord extensions, and death metal, how could I facilitate chord extensions with what I'm doing? So, and then that makes a really interesting problem, doesn't it? And I'm thinking about that and thinking, you know what? If I was into death metal, I'll be very interested in that. And then before you know it, just to wrap things up neatly, the addiction happens. And then you're back into your guitar, you're studying chord harmony, and you're also developing your unique style. And that there is, to me, what it means to be an artist. So I'll close on that note, and I'll see everybody. I think it's going to be Monday, all right? Because I've got stuff on Saturday. All right, hold on. Atheists and cynics are examples that fuse a lot of jazz and death metal. Anyway, thanks for the answer. Anytime. Thanks, everybody. I will see you Monday. Bye.